Shalom, friends of Israel. I am Joe Wolfson, first Vice President of the Jewish National Fund USA Board of Directors. Thank you for joining us today on our daily briefings as we continue to stand in solidarity with our family and friends in Israel. As you know, today is day 173 of the war in Israel. We are pleased to welcome back as our guest today Jacob Baime, CEO of the Israel on Campus Coalition. Since 2013, Jacob has led the ICC in their mission to inspire American college students to see Israel as a source of pride and empower them to stand up for Israel on campus. The ICC's role in this effort is to unite the many pro-Israel organizations that operate on campuses across the United States by coordinating strategies, providing educational resources, sharing in-depth research, and increasing collaboration. As you may know, JNF USA is a leader in Zionist education, and JNF USA is a proud funder of the ICC through grants from our Baruchin Center. The JNF USA Baruchin Center's goal is to strengthen the lifelong connection of Americans, especially young Jewish teenagers and college students, with the land and people of Israel. ICC and its important work certainly achieves this criteria, and in today's world, we are so proud to join them in their work across campuses. Jacob, thank you for joining again today. You first met with us in late October, and we are eager to hear your updates and reflections 5 months later.
Joe, thank you so much. Thank you to you and to my entire JNF USA family. It's hard to believe it's been 5 months since we had that prior conversation, but I'll just start by saying I always feel really good being with my JNF family. And what I thought I would do today is take a step back and discuss the various aspects of the operation that we have built hand in glove with Jewish National Fund USA over really the past almost decade. We've worked very closely together, mostly quietly, mostly behind the scenes, with an eye towards preparing for a moment like the one we are in right now. And so I want to talk about what that all looks like today, thanks to the work we've done together. The starting point is that we've got to acknowledge that Israel lives in an extremely dangerous neighborhood surrounded by existential threats on every front. And today, the Israeli people are fighting for their lives. They're fighting for their hostages in what is, in fact, a multi-front war sponsored by Iran. And the IDF, thankfully, has succeeded largely in Gaza against all odds, against many of the initial predictions when the war started. And the primary reason for that is support from the United States of America, unprecedented aid from the United States of America. But at ICC, we know that Gaza and Lebanon and the Red Sea are not the only battlefields. There is the war at home. What our adversaries are waging against us in this country is a multi-domain hybrid war. It is multi-domain hybrid warfare. It is principally an online information war. That's something that I think has become very, very clear. But it is an online information war that has very, very real consequences in our day-to-day lives in this country and for the future of U.S. support. The fact is, when you look at what happens at the United Nations or elsewhere on the world stage in terms of the way Israel is treated, Israel's only got one reliable ally on the entire planet, and that's the United States. Israel needs U.S. military support. It needs U.S. diplomatic support, U.S. economic support. And that's exactly why terror states like Qatar are every year pouring hundreds of millions of dollars onto our college campuses, buying professorships, buying departments, buying university campuses and presidents by the six-pack. That's why Qatar's Al Jazeera AJ Plus focuses so intensely on feeding anti-Israel propaganda to our young people, particularly to Gen Z in this country. That's why American Muslims for Palestine, which is the principal organizer of the effort to end American support for Israel, concentrates its energy on a campus-first propaganda machine that is backed by digital experts, and it's also, frankly, backed by the botnets and the troll farms of state actors, making this a very, very difficult and asymmetrical fight. And if you think about it, it wasn't an accident that on October 7th, the pro-Hamas rallies, calling this resistance, calling this legitimate resistance, started on campus and then migrated very quickly from campus, and then it spilled out onto our city streets and into the public square. It is proof positive, and it is a real world, real time example of the fact that our adversaries' tactics in this country, all of their tactics, their information tactics, their organizing tactics, their political tactics, their messaging tactics, they all flow from the campus outward. That's why when American Muslims for Palestine has their annual convention for Palestine, the primary ancillary track is a campus activism track, training hundreds of students to engage in this activism. So fighting the war at home, that's the work of ICC. That's the work of this organization and is the meaning of the partnership we've built. Now, we do some of it publicly in our own name as ICC, but our overriding philosophy, as Yael Septi-Kane and others here well know, has been one of organizational humility. It's been this notion that we stand behind our work, not in front of it. And that's pretty much our view, whether we're pushing out, we're sponsoring thousands and thousands of student-led programs on campus that receive ICC microgrant funding to make it possible. And it's also true in our work to have students lead in terms of building campus support for Israel and also in terms of combating anti-Semitism and BDS. You may see that we released some polling data over the past couple of weeks demonstrating that Jewish students on campus overwhelmingly, when BDS comes to their campus, when these anti-Israel campaigns come to their campus, they feel a very strong and passionate urge and desire to stand up and to fight back and to be proud. And we let them lead. But on the other side, our adversaries have a highly professionalized operation. There is sometimes this misunderstanding, this misbelief on our part that the anti-Israel push in the United States is sort of just happening. And nothing could be further from the truth. It is a very, very deliberate, professionalized effort and has been for years. And we are pushing back in the same way, leveling the playing field, ensuring that pro-Israel students, pro-Israel activists, and frankly, the entire American pro-Israel community is similarly equipped. And I want to just quickly run through the three ways we do that so you can understand how this operation is firing on all cylinders since October 7th. The first of the three components of this national campaign we are running is our collaboration platform. Eden, who we work really closely on the campus stuff with, knows that we have a weekly, every Tuesday afternoon, operations and intelligence brief for the entire pro-Israel community. On-campus organizations, off-campus organizations come together, run through every major open matter on college campuses mostly, but increasingly, frankly, in campus-adjacent spaces like city councils and like state legislatures where we're seeing spillover. And we come up with common solutions and we work together. Number two, ICC sponsors communities of practice across our coalition. So an example of that is we've got a digital activism working group where digital and social media focused professionals from across our coalition can help each other and share information and collaborate in real time. And we do a lot to make that possible. And then finally, on that front, we play sort of an air traffic control function in the sense that there are a lot of organizations, a lot of good people that care about this issue, that want to stand up for what's right. And because ICC has sort of the bird's eye view from our National Operations Center in Washington, we're able to kind of say, okay, this organization's resource fits this need in this particular location. And so that's one thing we do. The second component of ICC's national campaign is our Information Fusion Center. Number one, I mentioned this, polling and message research with customers across the entire American pro-Israel and Jewish communities. Even our close partners at Anti-Defamation League are able to use our weekly polling data to help understand how they should target the millions of dollars of ads they're running and also how their creative should adjust to what we're seeing in real time. Number two, we conduct opposition research. There are really bad professional actors behind this effort in the United States. And so that's a piece we're involved with. Number three, our system scans open source information, social media information, et cetera, and is able to detect when significant anti-Israel activity is coming to a campus or coming to a community. And we're able to issue early warning alerts to give people some advance notice and make sure that we're not constantly surprised and reacting without enough notice. And finally, we've got a narrative intelligence command center that we partner with a couple of excellent firms that help us track the online conversation in real time. Because today, it's impossible to segment the campus conversation from the general conversation that is happening on Instagram, on Snapchat, on TikTok, which has by far been the worst offender. And I hope that we do make progress in Congress to ban it or force its sale from the Chinese Communist Party. But that's how our students are experiencing all of this. Whether you're the student government president at UC Santa Barbara being maligned on social media for being a proud Zionist who loves peace, by the way, and cares about the Palestinians much more than Hamas does, or whether you're just a general student not active on these issues who is experiencing this hate. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, ICC's got a professional action unit that is both digital, online, and in person. And the core of it is that we have 12 elite political organizers, 12 elite field organizers, and it's organized like a presidential campaign. We've got 5 geographic regions, and there are layers of organizers in each of those regions who are able to provide direct support to pro-Israel students who are under assault, who are able to do our part to train and encourage Jewish and pro-Israel and reasonably minded students to run for student government so we can prevent BDS from happening in the first place, and sponsoring thousands and thousands of positive, proactive on-campus programs run by students each year. Number 2, we have a 24/7 global digital watch desk. There are shifts. We have operators all over the world. And so 24/7, we are in a position to correct deliberate online misinformation about Israel. We are able to use our various communications channels and partnerships to drive the pro-Israel narrative, drive the narrative about Israel online. And we're able to monitor all of those systems I mentioned, all of those information systems, because the pace of change is so quick and the pace of change continues to accelerate. So that is a very, very important function that we've enhanced even further since October 7th, but that existed only for years, only because of the partnership we've had with JNF and some other amazing institutions that have come to the table and said, we've got to level the playing field here. Also, in that professional action unit, we've got a political staff, an in-house political staff that is backed by on-call writers and lawyers and organizers from Democratic and Republican political consulting firms. We've got in-house a full-service media booking and placement operation. So if there's a really inspirational voice, whether it's a student or whether it's some other inspirational voice from Israel or related to these issues, and we can book them on TV to get their message out, if we can place their op-eds in influential publications, that's something we're doing every single day. And all 3 of these functions, the collaboration platform, the information fusion center, and the professional action unit, operate 24/7, 365. And so the way that's playing out day in and day out is that there are, I think at the moment, 13 active on-campus BDS campaigns that we're using all these tools to empower students and others to fight. And there's something like 13 active municipal and state legislative emergencies that are going on, similar campaigns where if our political staff are able to apply our expertise that works on campus to those domains, we actually see some very significant success and results. So bottom line is that ICC's wartime activation began on October 6th because it was still the evening in the United States. On October 6th, around 11:30 p.m. Eastern, and we have been fighting like hell ever since. And I was talking to my friend, my colleague, Matthew Hirsch, who recently joined the JNF USA team in New England a couple nights ago. And I was just saying, the work has been so challenging and it's been so draining in some sense. since the war began. And it's just kind of, scary also as it grinds on and as the anti-Semitism rises. But the flip side, and I think as I talk to all of my JNF USA colleagues, they really feel this way as well. It is just such a privilege to be able to do something meaningful, do something this meaningful at such an important moment. And what JNF USA is doing, and you see it on all your missions to Israel and beyond, is just so tangible. It's not just the amazing work we do together on campus, it's all of it. So from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you. Thank you for being part of our family. Thank you for welcoming us into yours. And I'd be happy if there's time to pause and answer any questions.
Thank you, Jacob. Yeah, I do have a few questions for you. First of all, I want to thank you for.
Did Joe freeze? Well, I can look in the chat. Because I think I saw some questions in the chat. Um, so, well, someone said, sounds good. So how did we get into this mess? That's a good question. Um, Look, I mean, part of how we got into this mess is that for years and years and years, our adversaries have been playing the long game and they have been investing literally at like a state level, putting very significant tools and resources uh, into ending American support for Israel. And so I think that they a little bit got a head start on us in the sense that they began this sort of professionalized political operation. And when I say political, I don't necessarily just mean like campaigns and elections. I mean, the way that people interact with each other, the way that people and groups interact with each other every day. And so taking these political approaches sooner than our side did, I think is one way that we got into this mess. Yeah, there's a question about messaging and about what messaging works best. And I'll tell you that we've conducted a lot of polling and a couple of things shine through. Number one, Americans are shocked when they see the scope and the scale of what Hamas conducted against innocent Israeli people on October 7th. The details, especially the sexual violence against women, it's just so stark and it's so brutal that that is talking about what happened on October 7th and bringing it back to that has been really important when speaking about these issues in general in the United States. The second interesting insight is that when we talk with a younger audience, like the 18 to 29 audience, the people who are on campus and a little bit beyond, a particular message actually really sways people, which is to talk about the way that Hamas actually is oppressing the Palestinians, actually oppressing the Palestinian people. Some of the recent examples about the aid, et cetera, those have been two really important messages that we're really focusing on. Oh, I think you're back, Joe. I was just answering some of the questions in the chat.
I don't know what happened. I apologize to everyone.
It
My
happens.
computer shut down on me for some reason. Maybe someone wanted to disrupt our discussion here,
It's
Jacob.
Qatar. It's probably Qatar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're pretty powerful. So I don't want to try to retread the steps or what you said in response to some questions that may have been asked. But if you haven't yet, and tell me if you have, if you could give us 2 or 3 strategies or things we can say to young people on campus to help them navigate what is a very difficult environment, I think maybe that would be helpful for all of us on this call today.
So I spoke about some of the messaging that works, but it's questions broader than that though, and it's important. Yeah. And so first of all, as we're in kind of the height of the campus BDS season, as Yael Septikane and Eden know very well, there's as crazy as it is, there's like this seasonality to the BDS campaigns on campus, and there tends to be a huge surge of them right now in the spring. So what we're facing right now in particular is a lot of these efforts to conduct campus-wide votes. They call it a referendum. And so they'll have the typical student government elections, and they'll tack on a question to the ballot that is an anti-Israel question or a pro-Hamas question. And we're seeing those shape up and plan for a lot of university campuses. One of the most stark examples is that Columbia University right here in New York is going to see 5 different referendum votes at colleges within Columbia University within 1 month. 5 different colleges are pursuing this in April next month. So for one thing, the students need a lot of organizing support. I mean, there's a methodology to actually winning a vote like this, number one. But number two, I got to tell you that my belief is that university presidents have got to step in and cancel these votes. That is what I firmly believe. I do not think that we are putting enough pressure on university presidents, because this is not about free speech, right? This is about free hate. This is about universities allowing free, toxic hate. The intention of these campaigns is to terrify Jewish students. It's to terrify Israeli students. It's to terrify the allies and friends of Jewish and Israeli students. And you can see that it's quite serious and it has an impact. And so I think it's time for these university presidents to find their courage and to stand up and do what's right and say, we would never allow a pro-ISIS, question on the ballot. Why is there a double standard?
Great. One last question for you, Jacob, which should be a softball for you.
Okay.
If we want to direct students on campus to engage with ICC, what should they do?
Well, absolutely. Well, first of all, we're connected with Eden and Stephanie Afric and their team day in and day out. So all of the on-campus JNF USA programs, we're like hand in glove. So number one, that. Number two, we've got a bunch of opportunities. So if students want to directly reach out to us, they can either email info@israelcc.org, or all the senior folks at JNF have my contact information, and Ian Hirsch, my number two. And so, we're happy to help in any way that we can.
Thank you so much for your time today, Jacob. We look forward to speaking with you again, and we are so proud to work with you on campus to enhance your important work and the work we do together. Thank you.
An honor. Thank you all so much.
Well, staying with our theme of Zionist education, our next speaker is Dr. Stephen Kutno. Stephen is the head of school at the JNF USA Alexander Muss High School in Israel. For over 50 years, AMHSI has been a leader in Zionist education and connecting students with the land and people of Israel and teaching them our 4,000-year history with the land of Israel. I've been privileged to work with Dr. Kutno as currently chair of the Alexander Muss High School in Israel Board of Directors and serving as the first board president after JNF acquired AMHSI 11 years ago. And from one proud parent of alum to another, Steve, we welcome you here today to speak with us about what's going on campus.
Well, first of all, thank you, Joe. And I want to also thank Jacob for the fine work they're doing in colleges and post-secondary world. I want to start also by acknowledging that it is our board, member of our board, Michael Feldman's birthday today. So happy birthday. I believe he is on the call. And I want to point out this beautiful background that I have is actually of our Muss South campus. But before I launch into that, I just want to start with, I believe Muss is the answer. We're going to come back to that very notion in just a moment, but this is the campaign that Muss has been running since the beginning of the month, and that we will continue to run around Muss and its future. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about my return from the Muss South campus and what's going on that campus and what is going on our campus in Hod HaSharon. First of all, our Muss South campus has been playing host to many of the JNF missions. It has been playing host for the purposes of assembling boxes of goods that we gather from organizations based in northern Israel, in the evacuated areas there, to distribute to the evacuees and those families affected in the OTEF. So we have been playing host to thousands of volunteers coming on JNF missions. We are currently preparing the campus to receive 80 campers as part of the Habanim Drawer program, which is a project that JNF entered with Ophir Lipstein from Shar HaNegev. This is a project that he was the chairperson of, and we are going to be hosting them this weekend, and we are working with them to develop a program for this summer that would include Israeli students working to develop a relationship with our American students. The idea being that we are helping to develop the leadership on both sides of the ocean for the future of Judaism and the future of Zionism and Israel. In addition, we had meetings today with Ben Gurion University, and we had them visit the campus, and they took a look around, and we are looking at doing some joint programs that would allow our students to enroll with teachers at Ben Gurion University. So all of this is very exciting. And next week, we will be bringing the 54 students from Charles E. Smith Jewish Day School that is currently housed on our campus in Hod HaSharon down to Beersheba for 2 weeks, where they will be doing some volunteer work and where they will get to benefit from our brand new campus and everything it has to offer. So we're very excited about that. So in addition to the 54 students that are here with our partner program, we also have 35 students on our semester program, and we are expecting about another dozen or so at the end of April as part of our mini-mester program. So despite the war, or maybe because of the war, there are committed young teens and families coming to Israel to express and demonstrate that commitment. Moreover, we ran the first 2 of our teen missions, and there will be several more, and we encourage you to find teens who are interested in doing the same sort of mission work. We've had over 40 students over the last 2 weeks doing things like preparing food, barbecuing, going into communities that have been impacted by the war, and providing support. We like to say that the most important relationships that these teens have when they come to Israel happen around the dinner table and the coffee table or the cafe. So we never imagined that those dinner tables were going to be set and prepared by our students. I can't begin to tell you how meaningful it has been to bring our students from our partner school, from our core program, and from these volunteer missions, these solidarity missions, to these campuses, largely Army bases, to help prepare meals and for them to sit around with the soldiers and connect with them and understand what they're going through, and to just have a meaningful conversation with Israelis. It was not something ever in our plan or in our program, but it has turned into a really meaningful experience for every one of the students who comes through. I want to just reinforce, we are adding more teen missions, and we are adding it with heavily subsidized opportunities so that our teen missions for the summer, which might ordinarily cost a couple $1,000, $3,000, we're able to subsidize with grants and support from JNF that allows a teen to come for 8 days for $400 and the cost of airfare. And I can't begin to tell you how meaningful it is based on the experience of the nearly 150 students that we've had doing this kind of work. Lastly, I just want to say that our groups, our semester group, our Charles E. Smith's group just returned from Poland and Prague, where they learned about the Jewish journey. They learned about how a strong Jewish diaspora went from being a strong Jewish diaspora in Europe in the 30s and in the 40s to being what happened to it. And that's an important connection to what's going on today. And so we're asking these students to look at, what does it mean to be Jewish? What does it mean to have a homeland? What does it mean as far as peoplehood, as far as religion? How do all of these pieces connect? And this is where I want to come back to my first statement, which is, I believe Muss is the answer. I believe Muss is the answer so that I could say that I'm a proud Zionist. My son, who Joe mentioned, who did the program in 2015, can say he's a proud Zionist. And when he's on college campus in America, can have not an argument, but a conversation about what he understands from his experiences, the subject matter expertise, and from just his connection to the land and to the people. It's a dialogue. It's an opportunity to talk positively, to own the notion that Zionism is not a bad thing. It's our opportunity. Muss is the answer, it provides us the opportunity to retake Zionism as a positive and not let it be owned by our enemies as a negative. So must is the answer. And I believe that every high school student should have an opportunity to come to Israel, to experience it, to learn the history, to learn the connection, to learn the realities on the ground. They're not always comfortable realities, and we ask the kids to struggle with it and to have the conversations with one another, with their teachers, and with the people here in Israel. So with that, I just want to say thank you again, Joe, and to the entire Jewish National Fund USA for allowing me to speak momentarily. Must is the answer, I believe, and we really have a lot to be proud of.
Steve, thank you so much for joining us today. And as the parent of two Must alum, I can assure all of you that Must is the answer for the next generation of Zionist leaders. There is no better organization out there to instill Zionism, because Must does more than teach a love of Zionism and a love of Israel. It teaches the facts. It teaches our history in a straightforward way that is accessible because they go to the sites where our history happened. So, Stephen, thank you so much for all of your dedication, all of your efforts, and taking such good care of our students. Because as you mentioned, we have students on campus now whose parents sent them to Israel in the midst of this war because of their love of Zionism. And this will be the future of Zionism. And thank all of you again for joining us on this weekly event. To learn more about the impact you and JNF USA are having on the ground in Israel, please visit jnf.org/support Israel. We encourage you to travel to Israel with us on a volunteer working mission. So far, nearly 2,000 people have participated in these 4-day missions since December, and we continue to sell them out. We've added dates through December of this year, and you can visit jnf.org/volunteer-IL to learn more and register. In addition, if you are planning to be in Israel, you can join one of our one-day trip for volunteers each and every Wednesday. For now, we're signing off. We'll see you next Wednesday, April 3 at the same time. I'm Yisrael Chai.